Welcome to the Leadership Table podcast. My name is Chad Reyes. I'm here with my wife and business partner, Danielle Reyes. And we're so excited to have you on today. We have a dear friend of ours, a mentor of ours, and someone who we look up to tremendously. And he has tremendous wisdom, tremendous influence. Dr. Joseph Mattera. He gets the ability to speak all over the globe to some of the most influential voices, some presidents of nations, some influential leaders in the faith-based community. And today we have him with us on our podcast, and we're just so excited to have you, Joe. Excited to be with you. Excited to spend time with you. I know Danielle and I love you deeply, and we want to suck all the wisdom out today.
Oh, I don't think 30 minutes will do it, but
well, if you want to suck all the wisdom out, all you need is 3 minutes. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you with us today, and maybe we could start with this first question. Maybe you could give us a 5-minute background of how did you get to where you are today? I know your story, but Danielle and I would love for our audience to know your story. So just kind of share just how you got to where you are today to be able to influence and impact so many people on a global scale.
yeah. And I love the part of where you started as a musician, because music is just everybody's language.
Well, I think the first lesson is you have to be willing to make a 360-degree turn. You have to be able to pivot when you realize that maybe you were painting the wrong wall, even though you were successful. And when I was 19, I had an incredible renewal experience with my faith. I was brought up in the Roman Catholic faith, and I recommitted myself to Christianity, even though I was on the verge of making it really big in music. Fast forward almost a year, and I realized that even though I loved music, and I still love music, and I had a lot of skill, I was playing for the wrong reason. I was playing to make a name for myself, to have a sense of purpose, a sense of identity. And when I experienced that conversion with Christ, he gave me a sense of identity, and the need for affirmation from men that is temporary quickly dimmed. And I began pursuing another assignment that was more in line with what the Creator meant for me to walk in. So that's the beginning of the story. Eventually, I got formal training in theology, but the whole time I was very focused and very serious about what I was doing. I'm the kind of person that is radically committed to whatever I know is right. I don't believe in going in halfway. So just like an Olympic athlete goes all in, to remain on an NBA or major league team, a football team, you have to stay focused, practiced, have coaches, have people that you listen to, have a team that you walk with. Those are all the same principles I had to learn and walk in, and matriculated in the faith through my community of faith. And eventually I began forming large coalitions, first in New York, then in the nation, and now all over the world.
Yeah, it's amazing. Danielle and I say often, just to see the lives that you've impacted and how people respond to you. One of the things when we talk about leadership is you could tell when a leader has, John Maxwell says, moral authority, because you get to see how people respond to them because of how much they've invested, you've invested in their life. I know the journey hasn't been easy. Danielle and I have been part of a big portion of it, probably 15 or 20 years of the journey. And we've seen how God has obviously used you over the years. But for those that are listening, when you speak to people, when you have the ability to speak into their life, there's something, you have this, like I mentioned, this moral authority. Can you share more about how that has grown over your lifetime? I'm sure when you were young in your early 20s and now in your 60s, I'm sure that has significantly changed. And I would love for our listeners to really just understand some of that progression of how you were able to have that level of positive influence with people.
Well, I'm like the tortoise. I may be very slow, but I never give up, and constantly trying to move forward, even though there are setbacks. So I believe it's consistency, trying to be consistent in what you're called to do. Too many people start the race off like it's a 100-yard dash, but life is a ultra marathon, not 26 miles, but 130 miles. And the key is to pace yourself, to remain focused, to remain committed. And my focus was not just spiritual, but it was intellectual, it was physical. I worked out and still work out regularly at 67. I watch what I eat. I see other people eating late at night, eating a lot of junk foods and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they may flame out in their early 40s or 50s with the trajectory they're on. And uh, my goal is, I believe that I'm going to have unless God takes me home sooner, I'm planning to have a sustainable ministry until I'm at least 95. So I've been thinking this for 40 years. Adjusted my diet in my early 40s, adjusted again recently. And I believe it's holistic. You have to look at life as a team sport, but it's also personal mastery over many areas of your life that include your spirit, your soul, and your body. And so I've tried to do that. And so, I mean, yeah, there's just, in terms of having moral authority, it comes from practicing disciplines. With me, it's disciplines of constantly feeding on the Word of God, meditating, prayer. But the way you live in private will always spill out in public. So I'm no different in public than I am in private, and no different in private than I am in public.
I love that.
So to having a strong interior life where you are fully committed to integrating your belief system with your lifestyle uh, will eventually give you some modicum of moral authority. And it also depends on what kind of influence God has assigned to you. Some people, all they need is moral authority with their 3 or 4 children, right? But those 3 or 4 children are going to grow up to be world changers. Other people will have massive appeal publicly because of their moral authority. And but it all depends. Not everyone is going to have a household name, but everyone's called to have moral authority. And the key is to try to look for popularity. You can't chase 2 rabbits. If you chase 2 rabbits, you're not going to find or catch any of them. I
Yeah.
never look for popularity. I'm never conforming to groupthink unless it agrees with my values. So don't compromise your mission, your values. Stay true to who God made you to be, and line every habit up that way. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm legalistic and once in a while I want to have a piece of cake or eat out of my diet, or that I'm always, getting up early in the morning. No, that's part of life. You allow for flexibility as long as it doesn't compromise your moral values, who you are, and your purpose. Uh,
Yeah.
so
You
you
know,
can learn
Joe.
how to do life, a life work balance, but you have to do it without compromising your primary assignment and your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so good. And those are the things that you have shared with us, especially, what you do in private will show up publicly.
Yeah.
And one of my questions for you is, you are incredibly genuine. And I could say that I've been in many different rooms with you. I know the people that you know. I know the moral authority, the influence that you have with them. What keeps you so genuine? Because people would never know the type of impact or influence you have in the world. We're not talking about locally, we're talking about the world. So what is something that you could share with our audience about the genuineness of that, especially with that type of weight and that type of calling on your life that you have?
Well, I mean, first of all, you can't believe all your press. A lot of people are legends in their own mind. And I've learned not to take myself too seriously. Yes, I have serious habits and disciplines, but I don't think I'm God's answer to everyone's problems or the world. I have my own challenges. There's always family, personal, ministry, always things going on, and life will tend to keep you humble.
Hmm.
Uh,
Good
and
one.
the Bible says, and I know not everybody reads the Bible, but the Bible says on and on and on that God exalts the humble, but humbles those who exalt themselves. And to
Right.
me, being genuine comes out of a life of brokenness, experiencing pain, and realizing that fame is fleeting. And so I mean, I appreciate people who are blessed by my life or ministry or teaching, but I don't let it get to my head. I don't, let the applause of men or the accolades. I don't let it puff me up because I know that at the end of the day, we're all human, we're all frail, and at
Yeah.
the end of the day, only God is the main judge who will give us true applause based on who we really are, what we've done in secret, and the obedience we've had to the way He designed us. So that's the applause I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Everything I do is for an audience of one. Even though I
Wow.
have people around me, I'm always doing it in my way because I'm a Christian, to be honest. I know some of you aren't. Everything I do is unto the Lord. And
Yeah.
it's not just unto my wife, my children, my business, or my ministry.
Yeah. Well said.
It's good. Joe, I think about whenever it was 18 or 20 years ago that Danielle and I met you, and you had said two things, and maybe we can unpack that. One you just said was, Chad, make sure that you have an audience of one, that when you're speaking, you be in rooms that God will give you platforms for, but you're focused and your audience, He's your only audience. And the second thing you said that was very impactful, and I'd love for our audience to kind of hear a little bit about that from you, is you said about making a decision before you put yourself in a situation. I remember that about 18 or 20 years ago, you said, Chad, you and Danielle are going to be put in situations that where you're going to have to make a decision before you get in that. Can you kind of share with our audience, how does that apply to business? How does that apply to leadership? How does that apply to families? Those two concepts are so impactful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people mistake activity for productivity.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
before I say yes to anything, it has to align with my personal mission statement, my ministerial purpose. And even then, I don't necessarily take the invitation. I probably say no to 80% of all the invitations I get. And a long time ago, I felt the Lord laid upon my heart and said, I'm not going to elevate you based on what you say yes to, but based on what you say no to. And I've had
Mm.
to walk away from many, many big opportunities because it interfered with my family time, a vacation I already planned with my family. For example, got big opportunities once to stand in place with 50 of the top national leaders politically. And I turned them down because it was the second week or third week of February. And that's when our family always reserves a ski trip. When our kids were young, we taught them how to ski when they were 3. We loved to ski as a family.
Mm.
So I didn't even pray about it. I just said no. So you have to put in the calendar uh, time with your family, prioritize time with your spouse. What good is it if you win the world and lose your children or lose your loved ones? A lot of people will sacrifice their family because they want another business or they want to buy another restaurant, another building, another. And at the end of the day, is it really worth it? If you can't get what you're supposed to get done within the framework of 40 hours a week, with some exceptions that'll violate your time with your spouse and your children, you got to ask yourself if the is the extra money worth it. There may be sometimes when you're in a season that you have to do that because you have a crisis or a major opportunity, but If it becomes a lifestyle of decisions of neglecting your own health, neglecting your soul, neglecting your family, you're not going to last long. Now, I
Yeah.
forgot what the original question was, but I'm hoping I'm hitting the mark here.
I'm still stuck on the audience of one is God, but I think I'm the audience of two. The second one.
Yeah.
But the question.
No, the question was many years ago you had shared this with me, and I thought it was so impactful. Is you said you make a decision before you put yourself in a situation, and I mean you and I have spent countless hours together, and we've spoken about things like that. Maybe not specifically that one topic, but for business leaders, what does that mean? Why is it important? And how does that build moral authority?
Yeah, and what example could you use to share?
Yeah, well, I always believe that we need to under promise and over deliver. Most people, you have to subtract in half everything they're telling you. Even with pastors, if pastors say they have 300 people on Sunday, they probably have 125. Unfortunately, not with every pastor, but some. Same thing with business. They exaggerate, they puff themselves up, and then you find out that it's not really what they said. So you have to be honest, and you have to constantly self evaluate your motives. I'm constantly analyzing myself, making sure I'm not being driven by ambition instead of by mission. And I see too many people make commitments that they can't keep, and it's not worth getting the business deal, then being in over your head 2 months later and finding that you lost your reputation with somebody who gave you money because you couldn't fulfill a promise. So you need to count the cost. Even Jesus said that in Luke 14. He said, which of you, before you build a tower, will not count the cost and make sure you have enough to finish? Otherwise, you began and couldn't finish, and everyone will mock you. And every time before I say yes to something, my yes sometimes takes a long time because I want to make sure I could follow through on my commitments. Because if I say yes to something I'm not supposed to say yes to, I'm not going to be operating with the time and the grace that I can to give 100%. And here's the other thing. Whatever you say yes to, because you only have 24 hours in the day, 8 hours of that you're sleeping, then you're eating breakfast, then you have lunch, then you have dinner, then you have transportation to and from your job. Whatever you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. So you have to know before you say yes, what am I saying no to? And if you can't figure that out, I wouldn't say yes until you figure out what you're saying no to, because you might be saying no to something that's more important than what you're saying yes to. So people who just think impulsively and just make commitments, they're always over promising, under delivering, and that's where burnout, where bankruptcy comes, Chapter 11, because they don't have the wherewithal or the bandwidth or the structure to scale, and
That's so good.
they're causing their own problems.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because, and I want our audience to really catch that one, right? When you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And that's something you've shared with us too. And we have actually looked at everything that we do through that lens. Not saying we still don't overpromise sometimes in a day. It's said that you can overestimate what you do in a day and underestimate what you could do in a lifetime. And I love that you said when you break it down, you're right. There's so many pieces of that day that we have to just be so wise and thoughtful of what we're doing and how it aligns with the full mission, because we only have one life to live. And then it's done.
Yeah, I think about Joe, I think about the amount of hours we have in a year. Most people don't know that. I know it very meticulously. 8,760 hours are in a year. Like you mentioned earlier, we typically allocate about a third to sleeping, a third to working, and a third to family and friends, right? But I think that to the point that you kind of were alluding to, I think one of the biggest struggles is that people don't really calculate what time that they actually have, right? So they either think that they have so much time that they're overestimating and overpromising because they don't really know how to reality test, right? Or they think that they can't get the stuff done as quickly as they actually can. So then they've created a lid on what's possible in their life. Well, one of the things that I've done, and I think it would be helpful for our audience, is every year in December, I calculate how many hours I'm going to work in the year before I start the year. Every year. I say, okay, these are the amount of hours. I'm going to give 60 hours a week this year, and I'm going to do it for 48 weeks. And that's going to be, 2,860 hours. And then reverse engineer and say, well, where are those hours most effectively utilized? And I just think that people don't count. They really are not intentional with how they use time. And the only thing that we're going to have left, and I'd love for you to share this in the latter part of what we're talking about, the only thing we're going to have left at the end of our life is how we utilize that time and the lives that were impacted because of it. Can you share about that?
Very good.
Yeah, well, first you have to know, what are you gifted to do? I don't waste my time doing something that I don't have gifting to accomplish. And so if something needs to be fixed in my house, I'm not going to waste 3 hours trying to figure it out. I'll either get somebody who's a friend, or I'll pay somebody, a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, someone to fix it, because, I have to calculate the amount of hours something takes me, and people just make commitments. They waste their time, and I focus on my strengths. I delegate my weaknesses. Even when I would, leading multiple entities, I didn't hire people like me. What I did was I hired my weaknesses. And when you hire someone just like you, unless you're training them to take your place, you're wasting money, time, talent, treasures. And I also calculate, what is my time worth? And, so your time might be worth $1,000 an hour, $5,000 an hour, $10,000 an hour. So if my time was worth $1,000 an hour based on the income and return I get for all of my my work, and I'm going to spend 3 hours in the yard, I'd rather spend $300, pay somebody to do something they could do in 1 hour instead of wasting 3 hours. I'd rather give them $300 than spend $3,000 of my time trying to get it done. So that's also, it's just a matter of common sense. What is an hour worth to you? Now, if my wife or my children need me to pick them up from the airport, that's, that's different. I mean, that's time invested in my family or my friends, my loved ones. You have to know that is as important as anything else you do, is the relational equity you develop. Having lunch with a friend, your time might be worth 10,000 an hour, but that 1 hour you're spending with that friend is worth more than the $10,000 you could have had if you spoke somewhere. So it all is relative, based on your calling, your strengths, your weaknesses. Who are the people around you, God or your business, or you believe that you're called to influence the most, or walk with, do life with?
Yeah.
Those are the people you should focus on more than the crowds.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I think that's so important, and it's so heartfelt. And a lot of driven people, and I know there's a lot of driven people that are listening to this. Sometimes they feel that providing for their family and being there for their family is work. I know I came from that background. My father worked, and that's how he felt he gave it all to us. And we lacked a lot of that time and other things, unfortunately. And he had the good intentions and the right heart, but really knowing our time and what the exchange of time is in the areas with family and friends are really just so important. Just one little cute story, and I'll let Chad jump in, but one of our friends, Chad was talking to, and he shared about, being in your gift and staying in your gift. And it was very similar to what you shared. So I'm not going to repeat it all, but I'll tell you the punchline is he went home and his wife had asked him to take out the garbage. And he had said, "Oh, Chad told me just to stay in my giftedness."
And then I said to him, so-and-so, I actually put it in the book, Awaken Your Potential, but I said, so-and-so, that's a good way for business, but that's not a good way for marriage.
I don't think she's going to like us too much, but we love them. So,
but he's very, very, very successful, and he's able to pay a lot of people to do a lot of things that he doesn't like doing.
Yeah. And he did take out the garbage. He was wise.
Well, yeah, they'll blame you so that the heat isn't on them. But same way people blame God for a lot of foolish things they do, right? But we have to make sure, and this goes back to one of the original questions about being genuine. You have to always humanize people. Mm-hmm. If I, for example, I'm used to speaking in large conferences, but based on my relationship, there are some people who only have influence for 50 people. And I will put in just as much effort and preparation to speak to that group of 50 as I would speaking to 10,000 leaders. Because then I'm objectifying people. I'm using people based on their influence, and they're just a ladder that I'm walking up to get to another place. And I refuse to do that. So it doesn't mean utilizing your time, doesn't mean just the biggest bang for the buck. It means to make sure you're honoring your relationships, people, in my case, that God has put around me, and to build based on relationship, not just based on, in my case, ministry or business. Yeah. So we need to make sure we don't use people, that we serve people. We don't objectify, we humanize.
Yeah, we love your heart, and that's how we feel too. So we so appreciate you sharing that.
And I think, Joe, I think the powerful part of it is people, and what I'm hearing from you is people really need to get to know themselves, right? So it's get to know themselves, get to know God, get to have a relationship, but with Jesus. But I think at the end of the day, the leaders that I've seen that have been most effective, they know themselves really well. They know what they're good at. They know what they're not good at. They know what they're willing to say yes to, and they know what they're not willing to say yes to. They know what their values are, and they know the things that are going to take them away from further from what, God has called them to do, or what they've been, the vision they have. And I just think that my heart for leaders, and that I love, and I've learned this from you, a lot of the things that people are now being impacted by the message that I have. Granted, I spend a lot of time in the Word. I allow God to really minister to my heart. Yes. But I also have learned tremendously over the last 2 decades being around you and watching you lead. And I would encourage people to get to know themselves, really get to know you, get to know what makes you tick, get to know what makes you cry, get to know what, gives you tremendous energy and burning desire. And I just feel like, and I see this in the business world all the time. And it's one of the reasons why I think business leaders like working with us at our company, Lions Pride, is because we get people to really start considering where they're putting their time and energy and resources. If you just show up in the beginning of the year, 2026, January 1 of 26 comes up, hey, let me just work. Well, truth be told is if you don't have a guiding strategy of how you're going to do that, you can work yourself into it's the performance trap. You can work 110 hours in that week just because everything seems good. But once you put time on it, I'm willing to put 65 hours. I remember in 2023 to 2024, Danielle and I were preparing, and I went to multiple friends of ours and family. And I said, guys, just so you know, for the next 12 months, I'm not going to be as available as I usually am. I'm not going to be around as much as I usually am, but it's only going to be for 12 months. I'm writing a book. I'm putting 15 hours to 20 hours extra per week in, but it's not forever. It's just for this period of time. So my calendar, and we calculated that year, my calendar went from 60 hours a week to 80 hours a week for those 6-month period of time until that book was produced. But I knew, and I was able to kind of, at least I think the best that I could, manage the expectation. I don't think leaders do that, though. I don't think they count the cost. And because of that, they say yes to, I see it all the time. They say yes to networking events when they really shouldn't be there. They're involved in all these business groups that don't bear fruit because they don't really know how much time they're willing to put into what they're doing.
Yeah. The more they know each other too, the more they can manage expectations of others, because communication is key. One of the greatest things that we know is breakdown in communication will break down trust. And sometimes it's unintentional. So by being so clear, you're able to communicate that to your loved ones around you. Like everybody talks about life work balance. Well, Chad and I don't believe in work-life balance. Like you had mentioned before, Joe, like, like there are seasons that you may have to focus in a certain area. And then there's other times. So if we have to focus and work in a certain area, we will then also allocate and make sure that our family and friends know that there's going to be a season we're going to allocate more time with them.
And we were just, and I'll just say this, and then we'll close. We were just with my brother and his girlfriend, and we were out to dinner with my mom, Bishop, and she was kind of fascinated because she said to me, she said, Chad, when you're at dinner, she's like, you're so present. She goes, and so many people that have businesses, they're so distracted. They're on their phones all day. They're not present. They're calling people at dinner. They're thinking about what they were doing in the office. So it shows up at the table. And she's like, how are you able to do that? And the answer was this. And I want business leaders to hear this, is that when you do what you're supposed to do at the time you're supposed to do it, then you don't have to rob people when you're with them. But if you don't do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, then you're going to have to do it when you're with the people, and then you're robbing the people and you're robbing your business. So that really has helped me tremendously, is being fully present in what you're doing at that moment. Right now, I'm with Joseph Mattera and my wife and my business partner. I'm not thinking about the 1,000 things that I got to do after, and I'm not thinking about the 1,000 things I had to do before, because then I would be robbing Joe Mattera and an entire audience of people that are going to hear this. I really want to just encourage those that are listening to this Leadership Table podcast that you're fully present with who you're fully present with. So if you're with your team, then be with your team. If you're with your kids, then be with your kids. If you're with your spouse, then be with your spouse. But when you're half here and half there, you're robbing both parties.
Yeah, one of the most important books I ever read was a short book called The Present, Present, and that book, amazing. And one of the things that's always fascinated me was when you read the Gospels, and I would encourage everybody, whether you're a Christian or not, read the 4 Gospels. You'll notice one thing: Jesus was never in a rush. This is the man who built the greatest movement that has outlasted the Roman Empire, all the empires of the last 2,000 years. He was never in a rush. How could that be possible? He was fully present. He took time for people who interrupted his schedule at times. And he was fully in touch with his emotions. Sometimes he just broke down and wept. So he was a man fully in touch with himself, with his mission, with his assignment. And because of that, he wasn't like so many of us today. We're in a frenetic rush, always rushing from one place to the next. We could barely catch our breath. We have heart palpitations. We can't even sleep at night because our heart is beating so fast, because we have an adrenal rush from working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, never taking time off for ourselves or the family. And yet Jesus accomplished so much more. He focused on 12 more than the masses, then in a circle of 70 as well. And he was able to get more done than anybody else because he knew how to be fully present, and
That's
he
good.
never committed himself to more than he was supposed to commit himself to.
That's good.
That was so good.
Powerful. Hey, Joseph. Joseph, I haven't said that in a while. Joe.
We call you a lot of different things. That was not one.
Just quick. Best book that you wrote, you've written 14 or 15 books. Best book that you've ever written for leaders that you think that they should listen to and get. And then where can they find that book, and how can they contact you if they wanted to get in touch with with your ministry and your business and your leadership?
Yeah. So I had that same question about the book. Eager to know that information.
Yeah, well, probably the best book for leaders is called The Jesus Principles. And there's actually a chapter on what I just spoke about, why Jesus was never in a rush. I also have Cutting Edge Leadership, and I also have another book, Poisonous Power. So those three books would be good for the workplace, the faith place. You could get all my books. I have 17 books on Amazon. And the way to connect with me is just get on the website, Joseph Mattera, Mattera.org, josephmattera.org.
Great. Any parting words before we leave? And anything that you would say, hey, listen, if there's anything that I said today, please walk away with this. What's that this?
Well, know what your purpose is, align with your values, don't compromise who you are to get ahead, because then the compromise will never end. Don't sell your soul for the world.
That's
Be
good.
comfortable in your own skin. Don't be in competition with others. You're not going to be like anybody else. You are the expert in the world with unique fingerprints that no one else has, based on your life experience. No PhD, no doctorate will ever give somebody the experience and the expertise you have based on your gifts and your treasure and your abilities. So be true to yourself, be true to your creator, and don't try to be in competition and be like somebody else to the point at which you're jealous. Be comfortable in your own skin.
That just blessed me. I feel like you just spoke to me. Nobody else was in the room, Chad or anyone else. No, that was amazing closing.
Well, stop being in competition with me, Danielle, please.
It's very hard. It's very hard.
You're prettier than me, so don't worry about it. Everything's going to work out.
Your hair.
Yeah, I'm wearing a wig today. So.
It's a good one. Well, Joe, I know I speak on behalf of Danielle and myself. We love you tremendously. We've been blessed by your life, learned so much wisdom from you over the years, and continuing to just soak it all up as we're around you.
Yeah, grateful to share it with others as well.
Yeah, and I really hope that people listen to it. You know, we say our tagline for the podcast is mature leaders have mature conversations. And I think today was a mature conversation when we think about why we do what we do, really counting the cost, and then really being very careful to making sure that our life matters and not just allowing it to just go like the wind. So we love you. Thank you so much for the time today. And we're really looking forward to our audience continuing to hear this and share this with their friends.
Appreciate you.
I'm glad to contribute to the conversation, and I hope I get to meet some of those who are hearing this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. You're listening to The Leadership Table. I am so excited that you've joined us. Hey, listen, you want to join us in future episodes where we're going to invite some of our greatest friends, some of the greatest leaders we know, to share all about their leadership journeys and just add tremendous value to you and your teams. Hey, listen, drop a comment below on your biggest takeaway, what is impacting you the most. Like it. Share it with those people that you know need to hear this message. And subscribe. And hey, listen, turn on the notifications. I just want to thank you because you are making a difference. As you help us, we help you. And we just divide the work and multiply the impact. My friend, thank you for joining us on The Leadership Table.